This video is dedicated to Emily Ann on Tumblr and fauxkaren from ONTD. So this video is dealing with a very specific trope in fandom that is known as the Woobie. Oh, Woobie. The character who instills us with so many feelings that when we see them we just want to, hug them and squeeze them and love them and call them George, that whole stick. But there is a problem with the Woobie. Not so much that the Woobie exists, but more so how the fandoms treat a specific type of Woobie, which is kind of the more antagonistic, anti-villain, villainous Woobies. And the thing is, yes, many of these characters have sympathetic backgrounds, but that does not negate them from being murderers, rapists, and all-around bad people. Sometimes our way of explaining how a character is and why they act can sometimes tend us to excuse the fact that they have done bad things and are not just, super sad souls who just need hugs and squeezes. And I'll admit, I am guilty of this too. But what's bad about this is that these excuses take away from what is so compelling about these characters. The fact that they have, that they aren't just, these strict black and white villains with no depth. That these are very human characters who under different circumstances might not have ended up the way they did. And that's what makes them interesting, compelling, and worth analyzing, that complexity. But when you turn them into one giant pity party, you lose what is so good about these characters and who they are. The fact that they're not, the fact that, they're bad people, but they weren't born that way. They were molded into that by other factors in their lives. But the thing is that with a lot of male villain Woobies, and some female ones, but not as much, the big one that I see now is Regina from Once Upon a Time, where people ignore that she is a rapist. But that's one of the big ones. But most of the time it's male Woobies, and they will do pretty fucked up things, but by having a sympathetic backstory, it's all... He doesn't mean to hurt her. He just needs love. You don't understand his feelings. Yeah, a lot of that. Stop, okay? You're ruining it for everyone. I mean, this is something that can sometimes ruin the greatness of a character. I mean, for example, I love Damon Salvatore in Season 1 and early Season 2 of The Vampire Diaries because he just didn't give a shit, He would do horrible things because he was a self-destructive person who needed serious help. However, that does not mean taking out your anger on a 17-year-old and her 15-year-old brother is okay. At all, okay? And the justification of this event and the need for the writers to make him into this tortured hero is ruined by the fact that he snapped the neck of his love interest brother, okay? And that's on top of raping and abusing her best friend, almost killing her other best friend, and of course, the creme de la creme of fucking her mother. Okay? Mind you, none of those things necessarily make me hate Damon as a character. I think that, considering his background and his vampiric nature, yeah, he would be that kind of jerk-ass, almost Lestat-like vampire who doesn't care about the consequences of his actions. And that's fine as a character. However, the way it's handled undermines all of that depth and complexity and darkness of his character, because it's supposed to be just like, but he really loves Elena, and if he just had her in his life, she would make him better. No, cut the crap, okay? It's too much. It's okay for him to be sympathetic and be a dark character. It's not okay to make him do horrible things and then justify it by saying, well, if they just treated him better, he would be okay. Maybe he should grow the fuck up because he's 160 years old and he could probably get therapy by now. Just saying. The one personal character that I feel like I got super Woobie about, especially in one of my older videos, is Severus Snape. I had defended his character too much to some points, and I apologize for that. I'm sorry, Lily. You were right to not want to speak to him. I understand why. I don't agree, because I think that it's a lot more complicated, but at the same time, I was wrong to call you a bitch. I apologize. The thing about Snape is that, yes, he is a very complex character, and I think he's one of the best characters in Harry Potter, just overall. And he did have a very shit life. There's no denying that. But he still made bad choices that led to the death of someone he loved because he was ready to sacrifice her husband and her son so that he could get her. And that's horrible. That's a horrible thing to do, even in the name of love. You know, it's still fucked up that he would think that the life of her child and her husband would be so meaningless towards her that if they were gone, she would just go running to him. You know, it completely negates the fact that she's her own person and things like that. And even going beyond that, because we can consider that was when he was the bad guy, and then he becomes good post that. Well, that's would be okay if, as a teacher, he didn't take out his issues on all of his young students who had nothing to do with what was going on in his life. And even if you want to make the excuse about why he treats Harry that certain way, okay, that's one thing. But he does this to everyone who's non-Slytherin, people who really don't deserve it. I mean, especially Hermione. And I feel like with Hermione, he projects so much onto her because of the fact that she is also, like Lily, a Muggle-born witch. But you know, he calls her a know-it-all, and in book 4, when he makes that comment about her teeth, like when the spell hits her and they grow really long, and he's like, I don't really see that much of a difference. Asshole. Complete and utter asshole. Yes, he's sympathetic. Yes, you can understand him. Yes, you can even find him to be the most complex, interesting character in the series, but he's still a bully, and he's still wrong for doing those things. And when you justify those things, you take out all the complexity of his character, because you just make him like, oh yeah, he's just a sad person. If Lily had just been there and been nice to him, he would never, ever do that. Yes, he would, most likely, because he's still kind of an ass. I would say that none of this compares to the absolute king of Woobies, who is the Phantom of the Opera. Yes, the Phantom, or Eric as he's known in some incarnations, is probably the character that I think gets woobified the most next to Satan. And here's the thing. Is Eric the most interesting character in the Phantom of the Opera? Yes. Is Eric a very tragic character? Yes. Does Eric's backstory make you sympathize with him? Yes. Is he a homicidal maniac, a kidnapper, and a sexual harasser? Yes. Okay? The victim in the story is Christine. Okay? She's the one who is being harassed, tricked, and having her innocence used against her like a weapon by Eric. He manipulates her because he wants to use her to fulfill his own needs in his life with no real regard for her own feelings. And yet people just want to kind of dismiss her as being like, oh, she's being shallow because she wants to be with Raul instead. Okay, I'll admit, Raul is probably the least interesting character in the story, in the musical, and anything. He's just kind of dull. But here's the thing about this whole shallow argument. One, okay? The man has a corpse-like face. Okay, I'm not talking about, you know, the way they kind of BS it in the 2004 movie or how it's even lightened in the musical. I'm talking Lon Chaney, Phantom of the Opera, in the book, okay? Like the face of death. That's not shallow, okay? Secondly, she didn't start becoming afraid of him until he started getting super possessive over her and really freaking her out in the, in the book. And 3, he's a homicidal maniac, okay? Yes, he is redeemed by Christine's kiss, but in order for that to hold weight, there must be something that needs to be redeemed. He needs to be redeemed because he is a murderer and he is a maniac and he uses Christine's innocence as a weapon to manipulate her, and that's wrong. And he's wrong for doing that. And just because we feel bad for him and he's the most interesting character does not make what he did okay. He's still a creeper and he still needs to cut that shit out. You know? But I feel like the whole thing has come up now with the musical and the movie that the Phantom is sexier. Okay. I mostly blame the 2004 movie for this because, you know, they really sex up the Phantom so much. And it's kind of like, you know, in 2004, you know, it's Gerard Butler who's, you know, wearing these really sexy versions of the costumes, you know, where it's all tight and his groin is just, you know, curving out there so preciously, beckoning to you like a chorus of 1,000 horny nymphalum. It's just kind of like, I want it. But, however, you know, that's not what we should be focusing on. Not the beauty of his groinal parts, but the fact that he's still homicidal maniac, okay? And the costumes in the movie are made to make him look like this is man's man, and, you know, it's all like, you know, these tight costumes, like the Red Death costume and the Don Juan costumes are so sexed up. Like when I was watching, because I went to go see the musical, and I thought he was going to come on like, you know, the tight stuff, and I'm just kind of like, he's wearing a giant sheet. This isn't sexy. And think about it too, when you watch the musical, while there is a sense of like that sadness of his character, it's also the sense of like self-entitlement, like, I deserve this, I am a genius, god damn it, why doesn't people like me? Why won't they be my friend? Why won't they recognize my genius? Maybe you should not kill people and harass the opera house and they might be nicer to you. But then, of course, the whole redeemed by a kiss thing kind of makes people soften up to him, which I understand, but it's kind of like, that idea of, like, love will redeem me, it's just kind of like, you know, I get why it's there, but sometimes people take it to the degree and really ignore it, because it's like, alright, Sandor Clegane in A Song of Ice and Fire is one of my favorite characters, but goddamn, he gets whoopied like a son of a bitch. I mean, I do think he's a complex character, in my own opinion, and using my, you know, my well-learned history minor research skills, you know, who said those wouldn't come in handy? I look into his character based on the text that we get in the book and kind of what's compiled on the A Song of Ice and Fire wiki page, and I looked at like how I think that his childhood has influenced the way he is, the way he views the world, even the way his relationship with Sansa has formed. However, while I feel for him, and I certainly think that he's a complex character, and a very interesting character at that, it does not change fundamentally that, one, he is a murderer, and he kind of relishes it, and two, even though I do admit I like Sansa, his relationship with Sansa is extremely inappropriate and very, very squeaky at certain points, you know? I mean, yes, he kills under the banner of the Lannisters, and, you know, there are certain things I'm sure he gets forced into doing because he's a sworn shield, but it doesn't make it okay. He does relish the kill. Personally, I think that the reason why he does drink is because he, at the end of the day, cannot deal with what he does, but that's because he still knows what he's doing is wrong, and it still makes him bad, and he doesn't, and even though he can defend his actions, he knows that at the end of the day, it makes him no better than the people he claims to hate. But that being said, that's my interpretation of the text. It doesn't make the fact that what he does wrong. And when you make it seem like what he's doing is not a big deal, you basically break down what makes his character, one, interesting, and two, worth looking into. When people make him like, oh no, he's just did, I'll be like, stop, please, because you're not, I mean, everyone has the right to interpret a character the way they do, and I'm sure some people feel softer for him than I might, even though I like him very much, he's one of my favorites, but it's just kind of like, when you want to make him into this little puppy dog, you ruin the fact that he's basically dealing with all this shit in his life in the wrong way. And I think that makes it interesting because he does all these really bad things because that's how he copes with his trauma and his issues in the worst possible way. And that's interesting, and that is what makes it cool to read him. But, you know, everyone wants to make it softened up. And I hate the idea that he just needs the love and help of Sansa Stark to get him to be a better person. Fuck that shit, okay? It is not Sansa's fucking job to be his Jiminy Cricket, okay? He needs to get his own shit together, his own damn self. He needs to stay away, get shit together before he interacts with anyone ever again. I mean, you know, it's just like, I hate this idea that all you need is the love of a good virgin and he'll make you a good person. Like, no. Stop it with the whole magical virgin salvation shit. That's not how it works, okay? And it's like, you know, even when the whole thing happens after Blackwater, he doesn't instantly become this great bleeding heart person after the fact. He still looks out for himself because that's who he is. And even though he may have feelings for Sansa and care about her, that doesn't make him a good person. It just makes him nice to her, you know? That's not being a good person overall, you know? And it's just kind of like, the idea of all they need is love is just silly to me. It's like, no, what they need is intense therapy and a good support system that'll help them deal with their trauma. You know, I understand that some of these characters would not be able to have access to all of that sort of thing, but I also don't feel like this whole idea of... She seems nice. I think I'm gonna load my personal baggage onto her. Yeah, that'll make things okay. Is a good one, you know? It's like, I love... You know, I love my dark characters, but I like them dark. I love the fact that Spike, you know, can't deal with his emotional issues and it makes him act out in really dark and sometimes horrible ways. That is good for his character. But when people would be like, well, you know, he doesn't really mean it, I'm just like, please, you're ruining it because he does mean it. He's confused, but it doesn't make what he does okay. It's just kind of like, it ruins what makes, I think, in my opinion, the villain sympathetic. Is the fact that you want to make it, instead of them having, like, really complex, dark issues, it's just kind of like a bunch of angst. And like, you can only take so much angst in your life. And don't get me wrong, you know, I love my sympathetic anti-hero antagonist with a little bit of, you know, daddy issues. I love that, okay? I like it. But at the same time, I need more than that, you know? That's why I like them when they have layers and other things going on in their life. And that's just kind of like, my dad didn't love me. No. See? I need more than that. I need more than just kind of like, you know... Wait, hold on. I have eye drops. Horrible, unconsolable pain. I have horrible, inconsolable pain. Why won't anyone love me? Oh my god, my life sucks. No one was nice to me. I'm gonna take it out on everyone. But yeah, I mean, I have loved villains, you know, I love my Callistos, my Zulas, my Damonas, my Magnetos. I even root for them sometimes, you know, and I enjoy them, but it doesn't make them in the right. Like, Damona is still wrong for the way she acts and because she doesn't want to take responsibility for her own actions and how they have led to her life being miserable, but I still love her character, you know. Callisto has a right to hate Xena and even to want vengeance upon her, but becoming exactly what she hates isn't the right solution. You know, I think Azula was definitely manipulated by her father and used, but it doesn't mean that she was in the right for, you know, doing what she did either. Same thing goes with, you know, all the other characters I like. I love Sandor Clegane. I think he's a really interesting character. Doesn't make his, you know, what the things that he does all okay. It makes them more than just, oh, I'm doing it for the sake of being a douchebag, but doesn't make it okay. And it's like, I don't like the whole trying to make it okay, because it ruins what people think. And I think there was a post I read on Tumblr that really put it well, because they were talking about how people, you know, are more sympathetic towards Noah Talk / Amon and Tarlok than than Mako. And what they said was just like, you know, we may sympathize with Amon and Tarlok and even root for them to some degree, but we recognize that they are villains, they are bad, and that they are not, you know, that we empathize with their situation, how it made them into monsters, and that's what makes us sympathize with them and like them. And that's how it is. With a character like Mako, who has a sympathetic background, but it still doesn't justify him being a dickhead. You know, nothing in his background leads us as an audience to want to justify the things that he does. It's like, when I read Phantom of the Opera, I feel horrible for Eric. I feel it's totally bad that, you know, because of his appearance, something that he could not control, he had to deal with this kind of treatment his entire life. That's horrible. But I also feel bad for Christine, who is being sexually harassed by this man twice her age because he's got issues. You know, I may enjoy Sansan, but I still understand Sansa's fear, and I feel bad for her that, you know, the only person that she can really connect with in some stages are people who she can't even trust completely, or people who want to use her in different kind of ways. You know, I don't agree with, like, I personally don't think that he wanted to rape Sansa, but it's just like, should I give him points for that? Like, you're not supposed to rape people, so it's like, I don't even give him points for that. He's still the only person that can really protect her and cares about her in the beginning of this whole drama is someone who has really no value for life, and how fucked up that is, and how interesting that is, and how I feel like those things are what helps make those character connections so interesting, you know? But then it gets ruined because people want to be like, but the feels, but the feels. And trust me, I have feels for a lot of characters. You saw me stroke the poster. I don't deny this. But at the same time, I recognize the fucked up things that this beautiful creation of ink has done. And I don't justify all that he's done, because just because you have daddy issues does not justify you being an asshole all the time. And that's good. I love that. I love the fact that I can look at a character who is dark and be like, yes, he is, but he's this because of that, and I love that. Instead of just being like, I know that he done wrong, but I love him, and I will stand by him no matter what. That's too much.